people don't understand that, brother. I know my man. Do you get what I'm saying? I know what happened to him. Like that could happen to you, bro. You don't know how many situations you are from losing your flipping mind.
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.
I don't mind as long as it's not offensive.
Well, I mean, my name's Hebz. Everyone calls me Heather, and I'm like, no, all the time. I'm like Hotel Echo Bravo Alpha. They're like, Heather.
My mum's name's Heather.
Really?
Yeah. But to people, I'll say Heather, because that's how they say it in Caribbean. She'll be like Heather with a D.
Yeah, I get that, and I get Ebba.
Ebba.
Oh, yeah, it's cool. I'm used to it.
What do you prefer?
Hebba, Hebz, Queen. Anything that runs naturally from you. Do you know what I mean?
I like that.
Whatever works.
Whatever
we'll
runs.
take it.
Wherever your natural flow is, you know.
But you know what it is? Because I've been called Heather so many times. I feel some kind of way about it.
Heather.
So no disrespect to your mum.
No, obviously, obviously.
I'm like, I don't think I look like a Heather. I don't know.
Obviously, it's cool. Obviously, just there slewing my mum and that, but it's fine.
No, never dare.
No,
please, sir.
You know what I'm saying? I won't show Mumsy this part of the podcast. You get me?
No, we give shout out to Mumsy all day.
Yeah, shout out Mumsy.
Is this one running? Oh my God.
How's your boy? How's your son?
He's good.
Is it?
Do you have one?
I have one daughter. Do you have one?
I have one.
You have one? How's your son?
He's 8.
Oh, I got a big boy, big bumper club.
Literally, we're negotiating, we're having conversations.
It's like that, isn't it?
He's like, Mummy, so I was thinking, and I'm like, Then he's got plan A, plan B, and then he'll use the word and
That's
go,
good though.
but then he'll say, I don't really know what that word means, but I'm still using it.
That's
I'm like,
good though.
cool.
That's big energy.
How old's your young queen?
She's 5. She's gonna be 6 in March.
The transition is gonna be
5
real.
going on 25. Man, I like it.
But has she made you soft?
You know what? We'll talk about this in the podcast as well, because this is something that I say to people a lot. It's actually a shame for me personally. It's quite a shame that it takes having a daughter for you to realize how like crazy this world is. Like everything's a threat. Everybody's an op in it. Like, and I didn't really understand certain things that women are speaking about until I had a daughter, and I was like, no, that's my child. Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, like it suffers me.
It hits different.
Yeah, it does. Like yesterday, like she's a good girl. She's so Gucci. I don't really tell her off, but I just tell her off yesterday. And like obviously, like tell her off, she's there crying, and I'm like, yeah, go and cry in the corner, do your thing. I don't give a fuck. And then obviously she comes and does a daddy's girl thing, and it's like,
and you get weak.
That's it. I'm done. I'm done.
You know what she's doing? She's playing you.
And you know what? I get played.
That's cool.
I get played.
I think it's like a default starter package of a dad. Like
so, yeah.
to your boys, you kind of like rough them up, very boisterous. With the girls, you're like, have what you want. Be spoiled.
I said this to my cousin as well. I said to him, because he's got a boy, and I was like, and he's like kind of like a new dad-ish. It's a controversial story, but we won't get into that. And I was like, bro, if you had a daughter, the way you see parenting and everything would be completely different, bro. Like it would. It's
interesting because when I got pregnant with my son, I started freaking out about the realities of raising a boy, like a young boy, ethnic boy in the UK, and I started panicking. Like the risk assessments you do, thinking about a boy in this world, this day and age, is mad as hell. But
what are you more scared of having a boy?
His environment. Like I can raise him beautifully, but he's still surrounded by. Like 80% of the time, eventually, he'll be with other people, other influences that I can't control. So no matter how much I lay down these foundations and build this incredible human being who loves himself, respects himself, values himself, fears God, he might still get caught up in a situation. And then that's it. Life's changed. So I constantly think about these things.
And you know, it's mad because people don't like saying this, but when it comes to children, it's often the peers that have more effect on them than the parents, and influence on the parents too. Like, and if you think about your friend, like when you was growing up on your friends, you think like, wow, you wanted to be more like people that you were around as opposed to like your parents. Like, I
never look at your parents and be like, mother, I want to be like you.
Yeah, I don't want to be like my mum.
Hell no. You wanted to look cool like other people.
Yeah, like my mum was swaggy and drippy. Like she was in her own way. Like, but
yeah.
You know what I'm
but
saying?
as far as like what you actually not idolize, what you aspire to be, wasn't by default your parents. It's only as you evolve into an adult that's when you're like, mum was right, you know. I can take this on board and bring it down to the kids. Yeah. But we're in now, innit? So this conversation started.
Lovely. I kind of gathered that as well. I think I love stuff when it just starts like, oh, hi.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a minute. Is it all good? Is the audio cool? We all cool? Can I hit? Is everything
Like, I don't know. We're going to find
Because sometimes I mumble and sometimes I just talk low. Like my tonality changes. I don't want to like, you're cool. I have to compress that and all them things there.
So some people might know, or well, most people might know who you are. But I feel
I
very
don't think anyone knows who I am.
excited to have you here. You don't
Do you?
understand.
Oh,
Gas.
that's thank you. That means
Like,
a lot.
the
so.
reason why is because firstly, I've stumbled across you. Don't know how I stumbled across you. But sorry, intro. Sorry,
Intro,
would you like to
yeah.
introduce yourself, sir?
I am Louis the Hippie. I don't know what I am. I'm a creative.
I said a father in my head when I was thinking about you. I was like a father,
Yeah,
a creative, a
yeah.
poet.
Yeah.
What else?
I don't know. I'm father, creative poet. I do a couple of things on the side. I don't know. I'm just a guy trying to live in this world, trying to navigate through life, and trying to be in my spiritual being and my divine masculine. That's it. I don't know.
And I've enjoyed watching you.
Thank you.
And that's why I'm excited, because I've watched stuff about that you've done and it's resonated with me, and there's certain things that you've said and I'm like, we share very similar energy. I could be begging it. I don't know.
No, I feel that though. Like I've definitely felt that even in the conversations that we've had. It's like it's been on a certain level. Do you get what I'm saying?
So I really felt like, oh, I can really rap with you for a minute.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. I was like, he might be an introvert and be really
I am an
quiet.
introvert though. People know what it is. People don't realize that. So people I said, oh yeah, I'm naturally introverted. They're like, oh no, you're not. So, like, and they'll see me on shows and shit like that and think, oh no, you're not. And it's like, brother, it's different. Like when I have to do it, I could do it and stuff like that. But then when I get back in my car, it's like, oh my God, like just leave me alone. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So are you the introvert that bounces off energy, but then also when you're around people, it consumes you or drains you a bit?
I don't bounce off. I don't want to come across any type of way. I don't bounce off energy. I bring my own energy. Okay. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay. And sometimes, I mean, of course, everyone bounces off energy to an extent, but I suppose the best way to put it is I have like a social battery. And if I'm going into a situation, I'm on charge and cool, I'm here, we can do it. But then when I gets depleted, I'm just like, I need a day or two to just.
You sound like a couple of my friends.
Yeah, I'm just it's like that.
So I'm a type of person where I bounce off energy. So in the sense that I'm not an introvert or an extrovert. People say you're extroverted, and I'm like, not really, because I can walk into a room and become so silent because the energy doesn't seem right, and just because of that, I just fall back. And I'm just like, I really don't want to be here, but for certain reasons, I just got to stay here, innit? Whether it's because I'm committed to an event or whatever it is, and I just sit there and observe people, and I'm just like, this isn't really where I need to be.
That's sort of similar to me, and I've kind of got this. I have this fuck it switch in my head sometimes. Not even a fuck it switch, but like, if I don't want to be somewhere, I need to leave now.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I will leave abruptly from places. People are like, wow, you're going now? And I'm like, yeah. Like, oh, let's say I've got to go somewhere to film, and it's like an event. As soon as I'm done, and I know I'm done, I'm gone. Like, I don't hang around a lot, and sometimes it's not a good thing. Like after shows, sometimes
you gotta mingle.
Yeah, like after shows, after I perform, sometimes it comes across as rude, and I'm not rude. It's just I've performed, I've given so much. Now I need to kind of get something back for me, and I'm just
And your performances are pretty powerful, so it's not as if you're sitting here going, so guys, I'm gonna read you a poem. Like, you give it your everything, and you know, like, people get really engrossed, and it's almost like you're bringing out emotions of people as they're watching it, and you can see it in your comments. So I don't need to tell you this.
No, but thank you though, because I'm always interested in how people receive me. As much as you may think you are how you, I'll say to people, as much as you may think you are how you are, and like, oh, I know who I am, and you have this solid idea of yourself, there's still a version of how people perceive you, and sometimes those things are completely different. There's disparities in that at times.
100%.
And it's a case of, am I connecting the way I want to connect? Is it, because at the end of the day, we're living this life and we're sharing this life with people, so it's no good me just say this is how I am and fuck it, flagging the ground, and people are like, no, actually you're an asshole. Like, so
but then you got to find a balance, because there is an element of this is who I am unapologetically, and I'm gonna do me, and then it's not seeking validation, but you kind of you just want, like you said, you want to like test all, like, and really get an idea. Like, you'd like to hope people receive you. And when I tell people, if people don't like me, I don't understand why they don't like me. They're like, why are you trying to seek validation from someone? I'm like, I'm not really, but I kind of know what energy I'm putting out. So I'd like to hope that they're receiving it in that manner, but I can't force someone to receive me the way I anticipate to do so. So I just got to learn to be thick skin about it, and just be like, well, if you don't like me, don't like me. But deep down inside, I'm like, please be my friend.
I think we all have that please be my friend thing, but I'm not gonna lie, I think when people don't like me, I think I know why they don't like me. I think there's definitely traits about me that will not chime with certain people. I think it's...
What are those traits?
Sometimes, at times in certain situations, I think sometimes when you're so sure of your position and who you are, it's threatening to people.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a case of taming that around people that aren't necessarily secure with themselves. And even saying that sounds slightly arrogant. But again, it comes from a place of being sure of who you are. And when you step into a situation, like what you were saying, you step into a place and sometimes you just go quiet. I think that is probably a case of you knowing who you are and saying, this isn't for me.
100%.
And I'm not even going to try mingle as though it is. And I'm like that as well. Like I could come across
small talk.
Yeah. You know what? Cool. I can't do small talk, but sometimes small talk leads into bigger conversations.
Word.
Like, for example, like, how's your day? Small talk. And then you say something and it's like, oh, is that it? And all of a sudden we're talking about something crazy. So but I hate small talk as well. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. Like,
but I think small talk can be draining if you know it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you got to do the after events mingling, or like, oh, I have to go to after work drinks, and it's just like, I have to be here. Do I really want to be here? No, but I kind of have to show face. And it's like,
that's the worst one.
Because then you just got to really just soldier through and just wooster and be like, cool, safe. And be like, yeah, everything's great. After a couple of drinks, I don't drink, so I know my cues to go. When everyone starts getting a bit familiar, I'm just like,
that's good though. That's dope.
Parenthood is real, guys. Gotta go. But more times I wanted to leave from ages. So I always start the segment with tell me your favorite quote. It could be of all times or it could be currently.
Oh, what was it?
I have it here.
Oh, go on. Yeah, cool.
And it's very powerful. And so far, okay, you're my 5th guest of this season. It's my 3rd season.
Sick.
And every single person's come with a solid one.
Sick.
And I think your one's solid, and it's even more powerful because it's your word.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know whether that would come across that way, because I was like, there's so many quotes I like, but then I just thought, you know what, let me just pick something that kind of came from me.
Yeah, no, I respect it. So your quote is, the only person who can destroy me is me.
Yes, the only person who could destroy me is me.
And my one is, today's one is, we are in control of our own happiness.
Oh, I like
and
that.
I feel like it's similar but different. Same but different, because you're kind of talking about destroying, and I'm talking about like how we can control our happiness. So
you're far more optimistic about life than I am.
I mean, other people would say otherwise. They're like, hey, but why are you always trying to think negative? And I'm just like, I'm a realist.
Yeah,
my lens is raw.
Yeah, the world is up, man.
Literally, that's literally. And I'm just like, people have ruined this life. Anyway, digressing. So why is this quote your favorite quote?
The only person who could destroy me is me, I think, is a real quote. Just because, on two angles, when it comes to how you feel about yourself, or how I feel about myself as well, to like personalize it. When it comes to like self-belief, I often find that other people believe in me more than I do, and that really annoys me. And it hinders me to an extent. There may have been certain things, certain situations that I've been through that sort of made me doubt myself. And I think once you start doubting yourself, you start continuing to dig this hole for yourself. And that, in a way, is so destructive. And I've realized that no one has power to destroy me like that. Because someone could, let's say, for example, someone could, you know, listen to a piece of music or listen to a piece of poetry and be like, oh, I didn't really feel that. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. But then I will be so critical of myself. And I think sometimes that's what holds me back a lot of the time. So that's why I say the only thing that could destroy me is me. Similar to you, I want to say the only thing that can make me happy is me, because that's not true. But
you can control.
I can control.
You react and feel.
I can too. I mean, to a degree, I'm an emotional, but I'm a little bit sensitive. So I could control how I feel, but then there's a lot of brain power in me controlling how I feel, because I react to my circumstances a lot of the times, which I'm working hard not to do that. I think that's why sometimes I'm in my own head a little bit, because it's like, don't react to the circumstance, you know, just think it out. And sometimes the overthinking is what also destroys us. But it's about changing. It's about understanding our perspectives and addressing it that way and saying, okay, cool. These are negative thoughts. These are thoughts that I'm thinking that are probably not serving me well. How do I flip that and turn it into thoughts that are serving me well?
Yeah.
And then how do I then look at actual tangible things, actual reality, and base my opinion of me on the things that I can see, as opposed to the things that I believe in myself. So the only thing that could destroy me is me, but then the only thing that can build me is me.
That's true. And it's hard because you're constantly coaching yourself out different modes. It's like you kind of dive into the self-destruction. So I actually wrote, when I was thinking about what you wrote, I felt self-destruction, self-doubt, and unhealthy comparisons
Mm.
because I feel like that's what I'm guilty of. So I have people, for example, I've been podding since 2018 and I've done it with other people, and everyone's like, Hebba, you know you should be doing this by yourself, right? And I'm like, no, that's cool. You're like, do you realize I did it? And I'm just like, me. And it's like there's this thing of self-doubt, and you start, like, I'm my biggest critique, like similar to you. So I can talk myself into something, hyped about it. I'm like, yes, this is it. And then literally flip of a button, like not even like a split second, I've talked myself out of it.
And it's done.
What's the point? I'm just another person. Why me? And it's just like, this is not healthy. So you have to change it. But it's also very exhausting to constantly trying to coach yourself into a better mindset sometimes.
It is, but then we got to understand the climate that we're in is really competitive, and it's so self-valid. Like, it's so, we feed off validation so much because of the climate that we're in. You put something out, put it out to be judged by everybody. If it doesn't get the reaction you want, all of a sudden you start questioning, is this good, is this da da da. But then one thing I always sort of try to revert back to, and I'm fortunate for this, it's difficult for, I suppose, other people in this circumstance, but for me, I try to, my biggest feedback is when I'm on stage and I'm performing. That's my validation. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the real energy, because people in the room, if I could connect to people in the room, I know that I'm doing something right. Forget an algorithm. An algorithm that has no soul, that doesn't understand humans like that. That is just programmed to do certain things and to da-da-da. It's just, let me actually go out there to real people. And I think that's something I need to become more accustomed with.
I think the way you can look at it, which is what, firstly, like, you're right, the real energy translates when you're performing live, because you can't deny what you're seeing and what you're receiving and what you're feeling in the room. But on the flip side, I mean, you can just see it as social media is a good way to just promote myself. And do I really care? You kind of do, but do you really care how many numbers you make? Because, like I said, it's algorithms. So sometimes it's the quality you're getting as opposed to the numbers. And but everyone nowadays is, unfortunately, it's just like, because social media's evolved so much, we depend on it heavy for everything, for marketing, for monetizing. People earn full-time incomes just on Instagram, so you can't help but fall into the trap of, like, you know, I kind of need people to like me to then help me grow, because effectively it's marketing within itself.
Exactly. You know, I mean, aside from what I do, a lot of, like, my day-to-day job is based on social media. Like, I work in content, I produce content for, like, brands and companies and stuff like that as well, right? So the unfortunate thing is, it's changed the way I produce content. I don't produce content in a way where, I personally think this is dope, so I'm going to put it out. I produce it like what's going to engage the people and the algorithm. And that's, in some way, you have to do that. I think if you're putting yourself in a position where you're creating for other people, you have to consider how other people are going to receive it. But again, there is that disconnect from the human being feeling it and you putting it to them. It's almost like the algorithm's the middleman.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? And it's like, why am I dealing with this middleman? Like, let me just chat to you directly. But when it serves you and it works well, it's validating. You feel on top of the world. I just done this and it blew up. That should only last for however long until the next one.
Literally, last time I was filming, I uploaded something and on my Instagram, and I left it for 2 hours to film, and I looked back on my phone, it had like 20k views, and I'm like,
swear down.
I'm like, but then I was like, Hebba, here today, gone tomorrow. Don't get gas.
But I still enjoy it though.
But no, I embraced it. I was like, this is sick. Like, I was proud of it. It was like one of the quotes that one of my guests said. So it's like, don't repeat the same mistake. Don't keep repeating the same mistake because you spent a long time doing it. And then we just kind of spoke about it a little bit, and it resonated with a lot of people. But the way the algorithm went crazy, I'm just like, humble yourself, child. You're not going to quit your job tomorrow because this ain't it.
But it's weird though, isn't it? Even when you think about it, it's almost like we obey this algorithm now. It's almost like, okay, so what do I do to make you love me, algorithm? And it's like,
but it's true. But then do I care enough to try and figure it out? Not yet. Like, I'm just doing me, and like, the one thing I'll do is be authentically myself, unapologetically, and be consistent, as opposed to trying to clout chase or just trying to get like any bait clicks. I don't really care for that too tough. I wanted to talk also, so we spoke about happiness, and I just wanted to know, what does happiness look like to you?
Oh,
I know you're a deep thinker.
Oh, can we refine that question a little bit? Like, as in, because that's such a broad thing. Like, happiness to me could mean many things. Happiness to me, like, for example, yesterday I took my daughter out. We had like a daddy-daughter day. It was amazing. I love bonding with her. And she was just like, I could see in her, she was doing this, I don't know, this climbing thing and like playing the balls and all this bullshit. And I could see in her face how happy she was. And we went to like this upside down house, and she was like, I mean, it's flippant. She's a 5-year-old, but she was like, oh, that is the best day of my life. And I was like,
you weren't enjoying it.
yo, I was like, is it really? That's what happiness looks like to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But also happiness is also going out, performing and touching people. Happiness is being able to help people in a way. But true happiness, I think, is when you say what does happiness look like to me, the first thing I'll go to is my daughter. And that's probably because we was out yesterday having a good time.
Maybe next week will be something.
Yeah, next week's probably gonna be different. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
The piece of chicken I had last week.
No, fuck my child. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it gets like that. It's just like, what child? Oh yeah, responsibility.
Yeah, I was saying.
Someone's there. So do you have does your daughter live with you?
No, I have her like half the time.
That's
so,
cool.
Yeah.
How you finding co-parenting?
It's cool. It's been a journey. You know what it is? I say to people when it comes to, I mean, obviously there was never the intention to be in a co-parenting situation. You know, my intention was always like to do the family thing, especially because I never had that. And I guess there was a lot of talking to that inner child in me, that little boy, and saying, you know what, mate, it's not going to work out the way you wanted it to, but it is what it is. And I think I do subconsciously still have those conversations. But when it comes to co-parenting, one thing I remind people who don't have children is when you have a child with somebody, remember they're going to be in the rest of your life. They're going to be in your life for the rest of your life, 100%. Regardless of how you feel about them. So usually you might fall out with someone, have an argument, say, I'm not talk to you again. Have the biggest argument in the world. I still have to ring you and ask about my child.
100%.
And we still have to have a certain relationship.
Do you feel like there's been a level of growth within you to like evolve into
I think so.
Because naturally when I was married, there was a high level of guilt splitting with my ex, because I felt like I was a person who divided the family because it was my decision. Because it's a weight you carry. Do you know what I mean? Like if you end a relationship, and rightfully I ended it, it wasn't because I was just like, off with your head. Off with your head.
See girls on the up.
Yeah, man, it's time. I realized my worth. It ain't you. No, but it's just like marriage is a big thing for me. Like I envision marriage for life, and so for me to split that was hard, and I had to deal with a very hurt person for a long time, and even to this day they're hurt, and it shows with how they deal with me, because every single time, like when you argue, it's intense, and or like when you have one misunderstanding, it has to go from 0 to 100. And I'm just like, there has to be growth. So how, when you guys first, I mean, you don't have to go too deep into it, but like when you first split compared to today, has there been a growth within you?
Definitely. I try not to react to everything. I think, and it's similar to what you were saying. I think with our situation it was a bit different. It was sort of, I say it was mutual. I'm not going to get into like why. Obviously, there was no like, no one like stepped out, done anything crazy like that. We just grew. I just think we just naturally grew apart, and the space we were in at that time was just not a space for us to thrive in as individuals. So we had to do that. But you know, at the time there was a lot of hurt and pain in the situation, and it was hostile, and it was up and down. 1 minute we're cool, next minute we're not talking, and da da da. And for me now, it's a case of exercising balance, and it's taken a while. And again, it's just understanding that this person's gonna be in my life for the rest of my life. Also, the relationship I have with this person affects my daughter.
Well done.
You get what I'm saying? And that's something that I have to be conscious of as a man and as a dad. And as someone that's raising a girl, I wouldn't want her to see certain things or to see certain like she, you know, we don't argue around our child, but there's definitely been times where we have done, because it just happens. You get what I'm saying?
Unfortunately, you can control it most of the time, but there'll be times where you're caught slipping.
Yeah, you're caught slipping, and it's like, but the thing is, we both have that sort of, okay, cool, like whatever. Do you get what I'm saying? But I remember one time my daughter said to me, Daddy, you shouldn't argue in front of me. It's not good. You shouldn't argue in front of children. That day, boom. That was the. I remember that was the day. I don't think we ever argued again.
So that was a turning point.
That was a big turning point.
It's hard, 'cause when they start speaking, it's just like, that's it. You can't actually go, oh, they're young, they're very mindful. They're mindful from before they start speaking.
Yeah, of course.
But they can actually now tell you, like, yo, this ain't cool. And I remember a few times, like, my son, he went through phases of like, you know, he'll be like, you know, why is daddy talking to you like this, or why are you guys always arguing? And it's like, when I say always, we barely see each other to argue, but there'll be the odd day when we're doing that handover and there's been like a miscommunication, then it gets escalated, and he'll be like, Mommy, I don't like this. And I'm like, Yeah, we need to figure this out because we can control it, and it's taken him to say it for me to go, like, this really needs to change. We can't just keep repeating history.
Because you know what it is? I think sometimes a lot of the situations that people have in co-parenting relationships are loaded with other things. So, like, let's say, for example, there might be a miscommunication, and this has definitely been me. Like, I'm no angel. I'm one to be loaded with things, right? So there might be like a miscommunication on this situation, and I'm like, but it reminds me of this and that, and you've done this and that, and it's like I'm bringing up so many things that 100%. Is not relevant to what is going on to this situation here, even though it reminds me of that. It's not like that, and you have to learn to disconnect and to treat every situation as individual situations and step back and also understand. And again, this is not me talking high or mighty, because at times I could be an absolute as well. Like,
the C word.
Oh, sorry, that's not my favorite word. I'm sorry. You have to bleep that out. I'm sorry. That is not I'm from East London.
We're beeping a lot. Don't worry, we're good.
But there's times I could be a CUNT as well. But I'm just like, it's about understanding the person you're dealing with. 100%. And accepting the person you're dealing with.
But that requires growth and reflection. And I think a lot of people are in their feelings. So my issue, and we're not having like a little therapy time, was...
I think this is therapy.
It is kind of. Therapy, yeah. But like, I felt like with me, I had to learn to stop explaining myself. Because this is where the arguments will take place. Because when something happens that goes wrong, they take it back to 2016 arguments. And suddenly you have like all this stuff dragging through. I'm like, bro, we're talking about something else. Why must it always go back to something that's raw? Like,
because there's a lot of pain there.
Yeah, but this can't keep happening. So I realized, because I spent so much time trying to go like, but I didn't mean it that way, or like, you don't need to react this way, or like, did you have to? I realized, Hebz, the more you speak, the more this is going to transition to an argument, because they're not listening to you. So I've just learned to just wooster and be like, cool, for my son's sake, because my son deserves to see a really good example of a father and a mother. And if we're in our own environment, can't present that and can't show it, then we fall back.
How long did it take you to get there, though?
To me a lot. I mean, I ended a relationship because I felt like it was a losing battle. So I realized, like, I can be here for hours and hours and hours and years explaining to someone like what marriage is and what respect is and what everything is, but you can't feed someone and hope like they will grow if they're not ready to grow. And I realized I was filling his glass completely and I was dehydrating in the corner. So when you've done that for so long, you realize, cool, do you know what, I'm actually talking to like a brick wall. Like, there's no point, and there's no disrespect to him, but if you're not ready, you're not ready, and I can't force you to embrace the journey and be like, do you know what, there's gonna be hardship, there's gonna be learning, there's gonna be unlearning, we're gonna take L's, because that's the true like realities of companionship. But because he wasn't ready for that, I just had to go, do you know what, I can't force this anymore. And he didn't tell me, oh, I'm not ready. But the resistance spoke it very loudly. The disrespect spoke it very loudly. The dismissiveness spoke it really loudly. So I just thought, do you know what, my son's here now. So it's no longer about you and I. I can't be here warring it or like trying to convince you. I did marriage counselling, everything. So by that point, I thought, do you know what, I need to just use my voice and my energy correctly, because I'm running out of energy and my son needs me. So that's when I disconnected and I thought, you know what, I'm done. I accept defeat, even though I felt like a failure, and I failed as a mum, because I no longer have a mum and dad in the house, and I failed as a wife, because marriage for me was for life. And now I'm walking away like my decision, and I just got to accept that as that. And everyone's telling me, hey, but you're splitting up a house. And I'm like, I wish it was that simple. Like, I wish it was that black and white.
Do you know what's so mad? And I'm generalizing here, so obviously there's only so much I know about your situation, but I tend to think men will stay in unhappy situations far longer than a woman would. And that's I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know. That maybe it's more strength to leave an unhappy situation. Maybe it is. But it's circumstantial. You can't just put a blanket statement and say yes it is or no it isn't. But I do generally think, and men will sit there and be like, I'm unhappy, but you know what, but then the thing is with men, that unhappiness does come with sometimes disrespect, does come with all of those things that isn't necessarily cultivating a situation where the relationship can get better. Because we're unhappy. We're just I'm unhappy.
It's a non-starter. Unhappy.
Exactly. So then what do? You're unhappy. You will stay in the unhappy situation, but you're not really gonna do much about it to change it, because
such a waste.
Yeah, so it's
because you're not even serving yourself. Like, forget serving another person. Like, you're literally coasting through life with like being disgruntled to someone,
yeah.
entering an energy that's negative,
100%.
even if it's silent, even if you and I never speak and we're just living as like flatmates, the energy's still nasty because I'm not looking at you and going, yeah, that's my person. I'm not looking at you going, you know, you're my friend, you're my someone, like you're just someone. I look at you and I'm like,
Listen, mother around the house.
yeah, the way you breathe is disgusting.
The way that's the when you don't. It's the little things when it's like I don't like the way you laugh anymore.
Yeah,
the way you're chewing is annoying me. That's when you need
the
to
way
bust
you
out, bro.
blink is disgusting.
Why are you blinking like that, bro? Like, why are you blinking?
But it's true, and it starts having a toll on your mental well-being. And I think I'd argue and say a lot of women stay because they feel like sometimes it kind of reflects on self-worth. If it's a negative point of view where a woman feels really low about herself, obviously there are women who are controlling and they manipulate the situation and they don't want to leave a relationship. But the women who genuinely lack self-worth will always stay because they feel like they cannot do better. Whether it's because the person's directly told them they can't do better, or whether because they've been in this long enough that the idea of the outside world is so scary that it's better the devil you know, and let's just chill here and marinate in this negativity. But because I know you and I know your limitations, I'm gonna just stay here because I've seen it all.
And you know, the saying it's the better the devil you know, I think that's definitely a mentality that obviously women have this as well, but definitely it's a mentality that men often have because I don't know. I mean, again, you be in a situation, and I guess for me it was that, look, we've been together for how many years? We've been unhappy for like this long. Like, let's just ride it out because we've got da-da-da. But then that's actually not a great way to think and to view a relationship. Obviously, relationships have ups and downs, but if your down times it's not even just a down time anymore, like you're staying there and there's no sign of getting out or getting up or any light, and you've tried the counselling, you've tried this, you've tried that, and nothing's worked. Something's got to give, you know.
And also your mental well-being gets deteriorated along the way.
It definitely does.
But I think also, like, for me, I can speak from a perspective of culture. I don't know in regards to what's your background?
I'm Dominican and Antiguan, so Caribbean.
So, like, I don't know what you saw in your household or what you saw in your environment, even like the narrative on TV, like whether it's music videos, TV, films, whatever, like the narrative of toxic relationships are normal. Like, you know, the one song that really gets to me is Retro 32, His and Her. And that goes deep, and it's just like, but even that is such a song that gets to me. But it also, to an extent, I know he's highlighting something that's toxic, but people can relate to it and go, well, I guess other people can relate to this. Maybe this is normal. And then it's kind of like there's a lot of, we all hang around for the sake of the children, and there's so many reasons that people stay, and probably 8 out of 10 times it doesn't even serve their mental, soul, everything, body. Like, there's nothing that serves you besides the fact that this is just what we do. We just hang around.
And you know, even on that point of staying for the children, because that was kind of, I think that was kind of vibe that a lot of people are on. And I was only talking to a few people who like had parents break up later on in their life, and a lot of them will say, "Oh, I wish my mum and dad broke up a long time ago." And when you hear that, it's like, raw. It's almost like.
Honestly,
like, what do you do then? Because you're staying there because you don't want to repeat. You don't want your child to go through certain feelings that you went through. But these times, you're not really considering what they are actively going through at that time.
100%. And that's the one thing. That's one of the biggest pushes to why I ended a relationship, because I started listening to my friends who had like parents who split up when they're in their 20s and their 30s, and like they ruined my childhood. The first thing they'll say is my parents ruined my childhood. All I witnessed was arguing. They don't have much value in marriage anymore. They don't respect marriage values, or they don't, you know, there's so much that they had to witness consciously, subconsciously, that it shaped them into who they are today, and the trauma that they carry. And it's just like, but the parents thought they're doing what's best for the child. We're going to stay together. We're going to hang in this together. We're going to ride it out to the end. But then they get to the end, they're like, nah, bunless, I can't do this. But by that point, we've all witnessed something that we can't unwitness, whether it's your dad putting your hand on the mum, whether it's the mum being, you know, whatever it is. But your child now goes, well, it's normal. Dad used to always cheat, but mum always took him back. And it's like, so what are we now creating, like the next generation that we're responsible for to shape and make into the best versions of themselves? We've already set poor foundations because we have to stay together for the sake of the children. And to me, that's just, I can't do it. So I started researching, like, what is it? Attachment anxiety versus staying together for the sake of the children. I'd rather have attachment anxiety for the first year of my son's life.
And you know what it is? It's funny because I posted something recent the other day. And I what I'm trying to do, or what I'm doing now, is posting serious messages but facetiously, so I'll make a joke about it. So like one of the things was like, stop dating, seek therapy, like stop bringing old traumas to new people, like, and it's playful, it's funny, but it's the facts. It's like you have to go through that mourning period of, wow, what the hell, what does my life look like now? And I had to do that. And there was the times where like you're dating people and you're like, I'm single, hot boy summer, But what you're doing is just running around hurting people because you haven't healed yourself. And it's like, yo, let me take some time out. Let me heal me. Let me sort of navigate myself and then put myself back out in this world. And
what does healing look like to you?
To me, healing is very simple. It's not a case of things not hurting anymore. It's it's making sure no one's catching stray bullets. So I might still be in pain over situations, but that shouldn't affect you. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I shouldn't be I shouldn't have someone in a relationship that is taking bullets for something that has nothing to do with them.
How long did that take you to realize before you kind of fell back from your hot boy summer?
I shouldn't even say that on camera, you know. It wasn't even. No, it wasn't even like I wasn't even acting like
I know,
that.
I'm winding you up.
Oh, no, I was.
It's all banter here, man. Well,
it took me over a year. I think it took me the first year. I was so hurt. Because the decision ultimately wasn't down to me. It wasn't down to me to leave. Like I would have read that, and I'm grateful that it happened. 100%. I'm grateful that she made the decision
upon
to say,
reflection.
Upon reflection, yeah, of course. Because I mean, it was up and down. Like we had broken up, we got back together, broken up, and then it was just toxic for like a while. And we're cool now. We're in a cool space where we're friends. You get what I'm saying? Like, but the healing process did take a while. It took me like a year and a bit. And then even after that, there was still a decomposing of that. And just, so I stay in my head a lot. I like to think, I will think my way through an emotion, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's where I am.
I mean, you're conscious of it, so you're very aware of your emotion, and you're able to really deeper and reflect it.
And it did take me a while to kind of say, okay, cool, you know what? Even if I still feel certain things or certain situations remind me of other situations that I went with the mother of my child, that's not like that. She's not like that. This is not like that.
It's a very, very conscious, hard thing to do.
But you have to do it.
Everyone is so guilty of making this. Like we start like predicting what's going to happen next. We start, and that's the hardest part when you're even in a relationship. You start going, do you know what? There's no room for change if you're always going to start assuming that this person comes with certain intentions, or assuming that they're coming and they're going to say this. Like, give people the benefit of the doubt, and especially when you're entering a new relationship, you got to say, do you know what? Like you said, they're not that person. So I cannot begin to, just because I hear one word, I'm triggered. Exactly. But
you know, it's actually in our human nature. It's how we've thrived as human beings, as civilizations. We've had to remember things. We've had to remember feelings. To say, like, the fire was hot. I had to in olden times, we had to remember fire is hot. Don't go near fire. So every time you see fire, you think, oh, let me stand back. Every time you see a lion, you think, oh, let me be quiet, because you know that lion's going to flip and eat you. So we've had to survive. That's how we've survived. So healing at times is going against your human instinct. It's going against your natural human order. And that takes guts. That takes balls to do that. And not a lot of people are able to process things like that. And I don't blame them for that. And I think that's something that we tend to do. We sort of blame people for the fact that they haven't healed. And I try not to do that. I don't try to use people's unhealing energy against them, but more just saying, yo, you still got a journey to go on. And I get that. And some people see it, some people don't. That's none of my business whether they do or not, but it's only for me to receive that and say, yeah, either it is or it isn't. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you mentioned the whole, like, the conscious thing of, like, you know, back in the day of, like, fire, like, reminding ourselves conscious. And it's like, I can't remember what it was I watched, but they said your brain has two parts. So there's the instant reactive part, and then there's the let me think about it part, and that takes like a 5 to 10 second delay. And it's like, we don't know how to use that part, even though that's like the bigger part that we can use. We tend to just instinctively react to whatever's presented, and it's just like we need to literally consciously work on that. And it's when people talk to me, they're like, "Wow, you think different," and I'm just like, I don't know how I got it. I can't be like, "Oh, you know, there's one day a tree landed on my head and then
the apple dropped to my head."
I said a whole tree, not even an apple, you know, just a whole tree landed on my head. I just maybe it's faith, whatever. I have no idea, but I just started seeing world from it, like the whole entire world from a different lens, and I just like I feel bad that for people who don't heal, or they think they've healed, but actually, because we live in a time where we don't allow ourselves time to heal.
Mm.
And the biggest fault we
agree with
do, I think that we all do as human beings, is that we fill our time with people and we're
I
scared
agree
to
with
be
that.
alone.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Because I think like the first couple of years after I left my ex-husband, I spent a lot of time just filling space,
Yeah.
because I don't think I was ready to really address what's happening in my heart and my soul. I was just like, what motive are we on?
Yeah.
Shisha, let's do this. Meal, let's do this.
Mm.
Getting to know people. And it's just like, staying alone was a very foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
And to be able to put myself back into that space and go, cool, Hebz, what now? Then I had time to just really reflect and think, because I realized I'm just here coasting.
Mm.
Like I spent a good year and a bit just coasting, filling
Mm.
my time with energy, good energy, bad energy, pointless energy.
But
like,
energy, nonetheless.
it consumes you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how are we going to be able to grow if all we're doing is just like taking in other people's stuff, taking in their own drama,
Yeah.
taking in their trauma, taking in their lives, when we're not actually addressing our problems.
But you know one thing, and it's mad because as we're having this conversation, I'm probably admittedly going to say like I am probably still going through a healing process. It's just different to where it was a year and something ago. But there is still healing that I have to do. But it's not, I suppose I'm not in a space where I'm, where people are affected by it. Or I hope I'm not anyway. But, you know, I think when you're going through that process of you're consuming other people's energy, or for me anyway, I ended up finding a lot about myself because I'd never known who I was as a single person in my 30s. Like I didn't know who I spent nearly my whole 20s in a relationship. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was almost like like who the hell am I as a solo person, as an individual,
Yep.
as opposed to thinking as a duo.
Yeah.
And that was revealing for me because again, like I was saying to you, that there's who you are and there's how people perceive you. And who I was in, it was actually someone that said it to me as well during the dating process. Like I've had a lot of learning and teaching experiences, and I'm so grateful for some of the people that's been in my life, whether it's been short or whether they're still in there. But there was something where it was a case of how I think I am and how I'm being perceived was two different things, and I didn't know that, and I needed to go through that period to understand. Okay, cool, this is what I'm giving out. Let me chill now. So as much as as much as that healing process is destructive, and yeah, we do have people to fill in our time. Sometimes you kind of have to see the silver lining of it, but that's only if you're in a mindset to be reflective and to be, you know, critical of yourself and say, wow, okay, that situation's mad, but what did I do in that situation? How have I hurt this person?
But that's the issue. Accountability and reflectiveness doesn't come easy to a lot of people.
Not at all.
And it took me a very long time to take accountability for the things I did wrong in my relationship. And it was only years looking back and being real myself and going, okay, cool, before I can blame him for something because what he did was louder. And it's just like, but I had to think about what was I doing that's quiet but also impactful. And that's very
deep.
hard when
Deep.
his voice is more drowning than mine. So I had to really take time out and go, Hebz, you know what? Yeah, I did contribute to this. Was I the main person? Nah. But did I?
Nah.
Obviously, like I'm perfect in that. But really, it's one of those things where we have to accept we're flawed. And
Of
I think
course.
it's sad that some people don't reflect at all,
Of course.
and they don't even know how to begin to reflect because no one's actually sat with them and go like, you know,
Tools to
take
navigate
time
that
for
ocean.
yourself. And there's a lot of people that do this whole woke narrative on social media and like, you know, I'm so aware of who I am. It's just like, but all they're doing sometimes is just watching stuff on social media. They're believing what's being said and they're just recycling that narrative.
Regurgitating it, yeah.
But are you actually taking it in? Are you actually stopping and going, all right, cool, what am I doing to serve myself? What am I doing to really heal? And it's just like, I think the biggest issue that people don't even realize is like your mental well-being. And it's like how much at risk you put it in all the time. Like everyone suffers of something of mental well-being, whether it's you're constantly happy, whether you're constantly sad, whether you're fluctuating. And I know like this is something that you wanted to talk about as well, which is male mental well-being. I'm an advocate.
I'm an advocate for it.
Well-being.
I'll wave the flag for the man them, and I've been
100%.
more intentional in that as well. In some of the stuff I write about, some of the stuff I'm putting out there, the energy, just trying to be there for the man them. It's something I don't know if it's a recent thing, but it's definitely something that I've become more aware of because I don't think there are many voices for the mandem, and not in the way that the mandem will hear it. I think there's you can have like men, like I don't know, you have an advert of like flipping David Beckham talking about men's mental health, and that's great. But the man them don't relate to David Beckham, bro. Like David Beckham ain't been in the hood like that. Do you get what I'm saying? We've been there. We can speak in that same language and dialects and still bridge that gap. And it's definitely something that's been. I wouldn't be more of an advocate for the man them. I think we need more.
Have you personally experienced something close to home or your own personal story where like mental health like has become like a very raw thing?
Both. Like, I mean, it's mad because, like, let's just say for example, I have too many people who have had severe mental health issues, and I'm not just talking about the pretty mental health disorders that are marketable, the depression and anxiety, and I'm not downplaying them. I've suffered bouts of depression. I've suffered, I have anxiety at times.
Anxiety is a real thing.
It's a real thing. Obviously, these are human things,
Yeah.
but then there's also an extent to these things, and I've definitely been through them cycles. I've seen people go through them cycles, and even being able to admit that. Like, I was talking to one of my boys the other day. He was like, "Yo, my brother, like, boom, I'm going through this and that, And straight away, I was like, my brother, I've gone through the same thing, bro.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I hear you. There's a way out. But then those, to me, the reason why I say those are the marketable mental health disorders, because those are the things that people talk about when we speak about mental health awareness. We don't talk about bipolar. We don't talk about schizophrenia. We don't talk about all of them things, that brothers really getting sectioned, people losing their flipping kids. We don't talk about that because we can't talk about that.
Yeah.
And I've known too many man them in hospitals. To this day, still in hospital, in and out. And it's sad, especially when you see, you know what's so messed up about it? When you see that someone was cool and then you've seen them deteriorate, and you've almost, you're looking at their environment and you could say, I can see how your mind went there, bro. I can see what happened. And there was nothing no one could have done about it because no one saw it. No one saw it. So now I'm more of attuned to it. I've got friends now that I'm sort of keeping an eye on because they're going down certain roads where to some people it's like, they're just being weird or but it's like, nah, brother, this is the start, because I saw this 12 years ago with my man and now he's in hospital because everyone just thought, what's going on?
Yeah, like I have these things where like I'm digressing a little bit, but when I've looked in this, like just walking on the streets or with my car, and I see someone just there talking to themselves, like full-blown conversation. Obviously, some people are on stuff, but there are people who literally have, like, no one's identified their mental health, and it's just gone to a point where now, like, a kid will look at them, a school kid will be like, oh, look at the crazy guy. And I'm just like, if only you, this guy was like you. If only like you, it just took one experience
100%.
for something to just transition and change their life. And sometimes it's gradual, but they can't even identify that change because it's so gradual. But I think also an issue is, I personally can speak from a culture point of view, and I'm growing up British. My podcast is talk about your heritage, talk about what you were raised in, your environment, and what was a taboo, what wasn't a taboo. And in my culture, we don't talk about mental health. Mental health is like, just go seek God, like go pray a little bit, and faith is definitely helps with mental health. Like people who, when it comes to suicide, a lot of people stop themselves from committing suicide due to a higher, like believing in a higher being. So I do believe faith is a big thing, but sometimes people don't want to address mental health at home.
You know so mad because you said something that I didn't really want to interject, but
No, go for it.
It's mad because there was a social media page that posted someone that had severe mental health issues, and they were looking very tapped, like extremely tapped, and they just posted them on the page for jokes, for bants, like. And I'm looking at the page, and I understand it's a banter page. I understand you're posting people that are whatever, that's your thing. But you know where I come? I was like, brother, like, I know my man. My man was cool. This happened to him. Then he turned left. And I ain't gonna lie, the page blocked me.
Yeah.
But
they don't want you, 'cause they want
I get
money.
it. I get it. He's like, brother, I'm just trying to make content. Like, boom. This video's funny. I don't care. But people don't understand that, brother. I know my man. Do you get what I'm saying? I know what happened to him. Like, that could happen to you, bro. You don't know how many situations you are from losing your flipping mind, bro.
100%. And that's it. So when I see these things, I'd rather, like, if I was to see it, like, go get that person help. Like,
if you can, sometimes the help's not there. You know what's unfortunate about our mental health services? The help is only there when you are over when it's too late. That's when they
And
help
not
you.
just that, sometimes they're like, you have to bring yourself in.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
an adult, and I'm just
Exactly.
like, but they're not in a state of mind to kind of go, yeah, I know I have a problem. Do you know what I mean? So to me,
Exactly.
it's sad. Like I'll give a quick example about I used to be a housing officer, and there was like one of my tenants who has like, basically she has schizophrenia, severe. Took her tablets, everything was blessed. Stopped taking it because she thought she's good. She doesn't need it anymore. Then she started deteriorating. Her children gave up on her. Yeah. So unfortunately, she started coming in, energy moving weird, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's that crazy lady," and I'm just like, "Nah, guys, like this woman needs help."
Yes.
So what did I do? I'm like, I can't let this woman keep coming in. Every time she's telling me about what's happening, and she's imagining all these things, like the voices in her head, things that she's envisioning in her house, and I'm like, she's literally being tortured every day mentally, and you guys are just finding it hilarious. So I was just like, no, let me seek help. I literally had to like bombard her GP, bombard mental health, like the different teams, and I'm just like, guys, help her. And they're like, oh, we know who she is, and I'm like, but she's deteriorating. Like, stop it while you can. And eventually, I managed to get her. It sounded really bad, but she got sectioned. She called me and she said, it's your fault, I'm sectioned. I'm like, But then a few months later, she pulled out the hospital, looking amazing, dressing amazing, sounding beautifully, articulating herself. And I'm like, this is not the same woman I know. The one before would come half naked, makeup all over her face, got paint on her chest, whatever, just looking at you dead. Like no soul, no nothing, just saying they're trying to kill me. I'm like, this ain't life.
And, you know, and that's the thing with people that get sectioned. Like I've gone to visit friends who've been sectioned, like in the hospitals, and they'll all say to you, "No, I don't need to be here. Like this is that. Like they're against me." It's that same narrative, like, and it's only when they get help and they're in the right state of mind, that's when they understand, like, cool, yeah, I needed to be there. But when they're not in that state of mind,
When they relapse, they don't get it. They can't see it. It's hard, and it's hard because like, for you to watch someone that you genuinely appreciate or love just fall apart, you're just like, there's nothing you can say, because if they're not ready, they're not ready. And it's just like, plus the fact that the government can't afford that much help to help people with, like, resources are a real thing. Like, that's something I can't deny, but there is also
just doesn't even get on the government thing. Yeah, resources are a real thing, but I think our priorities are in the wrong place.
100%.
Because there isn't obviously there isn't a money tree, but there's money there. It's just put in the wrong place, and it's a catch-22, because a lot of people will say, a lot of the men are like, oh, why vote? There's no reason to vote. Like, don't vote. But then I get where they're coming from, because of course there's people that there are people that's like, we could get conspiracy theory and say, like, there's people above the government that pull strings. I hear that, but in the same speed, if we were to vote and realize the power in our vote, we'll see a whole different society, because they will have to appeal to us, because that's how they'll get into power. And that's a whole nother conversation.
But that's the thing. But then it's like, sometimes even if you're like cynical about it, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it, because you have an opportunity, you have a voice. And people forget, like, yeah, someone go, what voice do you really have? And but people have been fighting for voice, and now you have it, and it's a privilege. You're like, Bonnie, I'm not gonna do it. Just do it and see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens.
You can say you did it.
Yeah, like me, I'm kind of like, when it comes to, like, the wokeness, I'm kind of like half foot in, half foot out, but I will still exercise my right to vote, because I understand how power works. I understand how the power dynamics work. I understand how structures work. And the fact is, no matter what power you have, power is like this, but you're controlling the masses like that. You need to get the masses on side. If the masses said, this is what we want, the power would have to respond to that.
Eventually.
They would have to.
They can try and swerve. Like, Boris, we won't get, okay, let's not get into politics.
No, but it's a whole other thing. But yeah, no, I hear you. But
all right, back to male mental health, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone that's actually promoting it, because I know, like, for the last 2 years, I did, like, a lot of coverage around male mental health. There are people on podcasts that that are starting to have these honest conversations, and it's been nice, because, like you said, they're familiar, they look like them, they can relate. But my issue, or my question really is, no matter how much you can identify, like, you can look at your boy, or let's say maybe not you, because you're very, like, reflective, and maybe you know how to approach it. Certain guys might go, do you know what, I need to start talking, because they've listened to something that's made them think, all right, I need to start speaking up. They approach their boy. But do you think men are really equipped to even know how to respond?
Nah, not a lot of men them are, but I think it's because we think it's a human thing. We think we need to say the right things all the time. And it's like, if I don't know, it's like, oh, I don't know what to say. let me not just say nothing. But sometimes, bro, it's not even about saying something. It's just about being there to listen and having a soundboard. And even if you don't know what to say, you say to your brother, you know what, brother, I don't even know what to say to you, but I'm here for you. Like, I'm here for you. I'll just be here for you. Do you get what I'm saying? I'll just listen to you. And that doesn't take a wide vocabulary and knowing the right things to say. That just takes energy. And I think sometimes we need to really think about what type of energy are we putting into the people around us that we love. Are we putting in, it's easy to put in energy to, let's go down the pub and watch football and what's the motive and let's get gal and da 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 da. That's easy energy. But when a man's saying to you, bro, I've got stuff going through, that energy is a little bit difficult, but I think that's the true testament of friendship. And I think the reason why I can't blame the man is because there hasn't been like a set of guidelines or a script to say this is what you do, and when your friend's going through mental health issues or when your friends come and say this, because even me, like I may be sort of cool with words when it comes to writing poetry, but then there's certain times I have to Google what to say when a friend says this, and then sort of just get that research. But again, that's energy. That's because I think I like to think I have energy for the people around me. Hence why the people I care about are so small, because I can't give that much energy to everybody.
Yeah, you can't spread yourself that
I can't.
much.
But again, we just have to be there for people, and people don't understand the power of just being there for somebody.
Yeah, no, because I've had boys, like guys who said to me, like, I've actually spoken, but then the person was kind of dismissive. And I don't think men intentionally dismiss because they don't know how to cope. Like you said, you don't know how to respond. So you might go, it's cool, man, just come, let's have drinks.
Because we're solution based.
Yeah.
Men are solution based. What's the problem? Let's fix it. And I'm like that as well. But and sometimes I have to sit back and be like, bro, there are some things your friends are going through that you cannot fix. And you need to be honest with yourself and understand that. But that doesn't mean you are useless just because you can't fix them. You get what I'm saying? There's other things you can do. And I think that's just why I've made it a passion of mine to.
Do you find that as a result of the material you're putting out, and obviously whether you go to an event and they're seeing you there, or whether you're posting, do you find that a lot of men reach out to you and want to talk?
Yeah, I found that's happened. I found, especially like with some of my friends, a lot of my friends have opened up a lot more and say, yo, bro, like I need to talk. There was a piece I put out about the man them.
Yeah, I saw that.
Is it? Thank you.
I'm a fan.
Thank you, I appreciate you. And since then I've had people reach out to me, and sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, not with my friends, but just that people on social media, like I feel bad for saying that. Sometimes people will come to me with paragraphs in my DMs, and I'm like, I might not necessarily have the capacity to deal with that, especially because I don't know you. But you know what? Sometimes the case if you need someone to be there for you, cool, I'll try to be there. Other times it's, let me just keep putting out material. Let me put out material that's something, and I hope it resonates. I've had Mandem come to me, like Mandem I used to like bang gang with. Do you get what I'm saying? Like da 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 da. Like hit me out DMs, like brother, that was the one, you know.
That's it.
And for me, that's what happiness looks like. That's what success looks like for me. Do you get what I'm saying? Being able to touch people, like, you know what, brother? Yeah, I felt that one. I've had man call me, brother, that one there, that was the one, you know. And not because it was so hard and because I don't know if you've noticed, but with my poetry pieces, I don't necessarily care for wordplay. I care for effect. Delivery. I want what I say delivery. I want what I say to touch you. That's what I care about. I don't care about rhyming plant with aunt and talking about the green and like, I don't care. I just let's talk on some real shit. Yeah, I want it to land.
No, that's cool. Do you feel like it's a lot of weight to carry, like when obviously when people are coming to you and you're like, all right, cool, like, I want to be there for this person, do you sometimes just feel obligated to spread yourself thin just to sort of please?
Yeah, but then with great power comes great responsibility, and I believe that there's power in my words. I believe that there's power in the things I do, and if I didn't believe in that, then I wouldn't do it. So I have to, it's almost like the thing where people be like, oh, you know, I didn't set out to be a role model. No, but you're doing things that's putting yourself in that light where people are going to look up to you, so you have to respond accordingly, or just don't do what you're doing, bro. You can't have it both ways, and I think that's the mindset I'm in now. So
how do you find a balance for yourself then? So obviously, like, you're here now.
Sorry.
There we go. That's what I'm saying. Because you're busy. You're not busy, but like as a result of your great work, people are reaching out and they're like, do you know what? This resonates with me. Or like, do you know what? My brother went through this, or whatever it is. And now you're giving your energy to people and you feel like not obligated, however you see it, right? But then what do you do to look after your own well-being? Who looks after you? Because you know they say like it's always the strong ones that you got to ask about.
You know, I think I'm in a fortunate position because I probably can reach out to people. I just often don't.
Why?
That's a good question. I have a real problem with being vulnerable, and I think the way I put my vulnerability out is through writing. And sometimes I am, like, for example, I'll write like let's take the Mandan piece for example. That came from a real conversation I had with somebody, and those pieces they write themselves. That I wrote that on the way home from a conversation I had. I wrote that whole piece in my car in about 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a bragging, but it's a thing where it's like, that was my outlet because someone put that on me and I had to express that in a certain way, and that's how I expressed it, and you know what, people connected with it. I think, again, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm able to express myself creatively. I'm able to make music. I'm able to write. I'm able to do things that has that output. And also, you know, I'm an advocate for therapy. I haven't been myself. Every time I try to go, I get cold feet and pussy out and don't do it. I should do it. And it's a bit hypocritical because I tell all my friends to do it and I haven't done it.
So what I will say with therapy, you got to be willing to go therapy, like fully. Because if you go in there and you go, all right, cool, let me see what this guy's about. And you got your back against the wall, already feeling a bit cynical about it, you're likely to not achieve what you want to achieve from it.
You know what it is with the therapy thing? And I tell you, this is a real story. Like, I was, like, a couple months ago, going through some real stuff, like, internally. I didn't really let a lot of people know. Like, I'm talking, like, I was in a real bad place, real low. And I called up the NHS thing. And I shouldn't have, because I can, like, I'm able to get therapy privately. Do you get what I'm saying? But I just rang it up. Someone said, yeah, rang it. And they took so long to get back to me that by the time they got back to me, I wasn't in that space anymore. So I didn't take it up, and I sort of just processed it by myself. And that wasn't the best thing to do, because I should have done that. I should have went through that. And even now, as I'm talking about it, it's like I should have went through that, and I should go through that, because that can easily come up again, because I still haven't had the tools to navigate and digest those feelings yet. And I'm just fortunate enough to be able to busy myself so I don't have that, and things have been going relatively well in my life, so I haven't, you know, it's been all right. But
life gets real,
and all of a sudden, bang, you're in that space again, and it's like, oh shit, I need help now. And sometimes when that help isn't there for you now, it deters you from wanting to get out, because then you feel like, wow, you know what, as a man, I need to deal with this myself. It's me, I'm an island. Nah, you know what, it's that. And that's such a toxic way to think, because I will never tell my friends to do that. I will never tell my friends, bro, talk to me, brother. Talk to me.
That's your setup. And I feel like I call myself Mandan when it comes to this, because I don't tell people my problems. I'll come to me. I'm a dear diary. I'm Mama Hebz. I got you. I
could tell that about you, though. You got that energy. We'll talk.
But there's something that I had to just accept. I can't keep saying this and, like, you know, do as I say, not as I do vibes. Like, I need to just be like what I'm saying as well. And it's just like, yeah, we're flawed. I remember when I didn't believe in therapy because I saw therapy go wrong for other people, where, like, it unpacked things that just made them worse. But it's because they had a different mindset, maybe like a victim mindset, and they weren't ready to, like, really take on that reflective conversation. So some people, like, heads up, if you do therapy and you just want to find more problems, then you will find them. But if you're wanting to find problems so you can understand and reflect and grow,
that's a good point.
You will.
That's such a sick point.
So
I'm gonna nick that, by the way. I'm
just shout Hebz in the corner.
Oh, damn.
But it's real. So the lens you go in and the mindset you go in will determine the outcome. I remember me going in there and I was just like, the first time I knew I needed therapy was I was in bed and I was crying hard, and I realized I can't move. And I was like, usually I like cry, release the energy, and I'm good. I was like, I couldn't. I felt like quite disabled. Called my GP on the phone, bawling. And then he's like, I'm like, but I don't want to do therapy. He's like, how do you feel now? I said, I feel a bit better. He's like, how do you feel? We stayed on the phone for a while. And I'm like, all right, cool, safe. Maybe. And then I went therapy. I started therapy in the therapist. I'm like, tell me about your day. You've been chatting
I do that all the time. I do that. It's a deflection thing. We deflect all the time. I do that.
And I was just like, no, tell me. You have a child, right?
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Like, we're here for you. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't stick to it. But the reason why I left therapy is because I thought he gave me a bit of wisdom and reflection that kind of unlocked a lot. And he said to me, do you feel like you walk this earth defensively because you defend your truth? And I said, aha. And that landed
Ooh.
and hit me in the way where I just thought I realized I was so defensive
Yeah.
towards people, and it's because I'm defending what my idea of truth is.
Yeah.
And the minute I realized that, I thought, all right, safe. He gave me something that just allowed me to just see life a little bit differently, and to allow me to stop and not react the way I do. 'Cause I realize I'm damaging other people with my reactions. And from that point, I thought, yeah, therapy's for everyone. There's different therapy. Sometimes you can't control your circumstances, so you need cognitive behavioral therapy. There's counseling. There's so many different things that you can do. But I'm a big advocate as well when it comes to that.
And you know what, you said something that's important, because I think a lot of people do get sort of scared to go to therapy because of the unpacking it does. But it is a case of unpacking and repacking, and people just think it's unpacking and they just get left with their luggage on the floor.
No.
And it's not that, bro. You've got to you compartmentalize it in different places, and you know what it is, sometimes it's not even about saying, oh, I'm going therapy, so that shit that happened with my dad however many years ago doesn't affect me no more. No, it probably will still affect you, but you'll recognize when it's affecting you, and you'll have the tools to deal with it and navigate through it. Do you get what I'm saying? As opposed to just having it affecting you and you don't even know what the hell's going on with you. And that's what therapy does. It makes you understand you and gives you the tools to say, okay, this is what's happening with me, let me do that.
And not just that, if you stop halfway because you realise, right, I'm just unpacking, then you're leaving it raw.
Yeah.
You're leaving it high with emotion, and you're like,
Yes.
okay, I hate my dad even more. But then if you understand, the beauty of understanding your trauma is that you allow yourself to just release the energy and make space for yourself. Like the minute you forgive other people and don't wait for the apology is the sooner that you allow yourself to just be free.
This is like poetry.
Listen, I'm
this
getting
is
so
poetry. Nah, because that's you know what, that's
But that's what I preach. I say, guys, like, you're holding on to hate, you're holding on to these feelings, and you're only hurting yourself.
But you know what you said was key, because again, this is something that I've had to learn, and I suppose I learned this for a number of situations. But you need to find your own closure, and sometimes your closure doesn't come through the lens of an apology. You need to find peace without the apology.
This person can still keep walking the earth thinking that they're right.
Yeah, and you have to accept that, and you can't let that torture you, because you need to move on with your life the same way they're moving on with their life.
Not just that, but imagine looking back and going, "Rah, for the last 10 years, I've been harboring feelings towards someone, and all I've done is literally drain my energy and limit my capacity to love."
Yeah, I've done
We've
that.
all done it.
I've done that.
And the minute that switch hit in my life, I was just like, I don't harbor any negative energy to anyone. Like, you can disrespect me right now, I'll be like, safe, you're a hurt person. I'll give you a hug. Like, not literally, but like, some of y'all don't.
But you
deserve
understand
hugs.
the place where they're coming
Yeah.
from sometimes. Like, you could see pain within people that inflict pain.
Do you know what, Louis? We're running out of time.
Are we? No way.
This is what I said to you. We have to come back, because there's so much.
Gosh.
My list is long.
Oh, wow.
You and I have a lot to unpack. Aladdin, how many minutes do we have left? 10. All right, that was a 6. All right,
gosh.
safe.
6 minutes.
No, 10. It's just his hand was occupied with a phone, because, you know,
Cool, right. How long have we been talking for?
for over an hour.
Is it? Hasn't it? I feel like I just sat down.
Gee, time flies. when
Oh,
you're
way.
having
I didn't even
fun.
open the snacks.
It's cool. You can have it afterwards on the ride home.
Yeah,
to keep you awake. I'm draining your energy right
No,
now.
you're not. You know what it is? I do need to. I do need to. After this, I'm gonna have to sit down somewhere and just sort of, unpack all of this, because
That's cool.
it kind of brought a lot of stuff to life still.
That's cool. No, that's cool. I appreciate you coming and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And I know, like, I've not seen you.
Not easy.
No, but I've to be fair, and I could be wrong, I've not seen you on a one-to-one with someone, and to me, I was very curious of sitting with you. Like, I wanted to, but just because, like, I've seen the material that you put out, and it'll be nice to just have a conversation with you.
This is the first podcast I've ever done.
Pop. It's gonna be the first of many.
I hope so.
Just remember me.
Yeah, of course.
Blue tick. So this is like, I think her name's Heather.
Ah,
my mum's name, innit? Shout out to Heather.
You're funny.
Just a quick thing I want to touch on before we kind of call it a day. There's so much I wanted to speak about, especially around mental health. Like the whole narrative of hurt people. But when it comes to, like, the idea of talking, I think society has made it very easy and okay for women to speak. We actually have created a social norm that women gossip, women just talk openly, emotionally, and unapologetically about how they're feeling, who's hurt them, and why they're hurt. And it's just like, men have had the total opposite, which is that you just have to be okay. You have to ride it out. Whatever problems you got, you just got to man up and just take it. It's L's, but it's fine. It'll turn into a W eventually. But it's just like, what can we do as a society to change that? Because like, we can all say, yeah, male mental health is good. Like, let's encourage it. But let's see, when you post it on like Shade Bar or any spiritual Instagram page, you'll have someone in the comment going, why is it being moistful? And it's just like, will this ever change? Would it ever be a safe space for men to talk?
We are in a very interesting situation in life at the minute, and I'll try to wrap this up very quick, as quick as I can. I don't know about the time, but so we're in a space where we're becoming more aware of our mental health and what we need in life, and it's good that we're having these conversations about men, but also it's like what I said before, we're going against natural human instincts. Back in the day, the reason why men didn't open up about things, because men were the ones that were going out doing the flipping crazy stuff to protect the people. So they couldn't be open about and vulnerable about their feelings and emotions, because that didn't serve them well on a battlefield. And that's who we are. That's where we came from as human beings. And in a way, we are still like that. So when we're talking about men's mental health and men opening up, the reason why it's so difficult is because we're literally going against the grain of our biology. We're going against the grain of how we've naturally got here. And I think it just takes time. I don't think there's anything people can do other than to keep having the conversations and to keep opening the space for people to talk. But I think we have to give things time, because in the grand scheme of things of human existence, we are here when it comes to having conversations about mental health. Like, we've just had, if it was a clock, we've just started having this conversation 3 seconds ago. So we have to be, and sometimes we tend to rush these things. A lot of things in society are getting rushed through right now, like da 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 da. And sometimes to turn around and say, hold on 1 second, this is going too quick, it almost feels a little bit controversial. But 50 years, 20 years in the lifespan of human beings isn't a long time.
No, but a lot happens.
Yeah, but a lot has happened and a lot has changed. And the world is going to change, and the world is going to change in another 20, 30 years. I think we just need to give each other time and understand that we are going through a different age. And with that age we need to adopt a new way of thinking. And it's not going to happen overnight, but we just need a space to be able to say that. But again, I don't think there's anything people can do other than, I think our generations will change how society is, right? So we are the generation now that's opening this space. The generation after that will continue that conversation, and the generation after that, and hopefully there'll be a space where people can just open up and just talk about it. But we have to give it time, and I think it's like the internet. I don't know how old you are.
Hello.
Cool, but I'm cool. I'm 32. I'm gonna be 33 in a couple of weeks. But I was raised in that sweet spot where I remember life before the internet and life after the internet. I've seen the transition of social media and everything. That in the grand scheme of things, that was pretty quick. But again, I think we are in that space with mental health where we've seen what it's like when there is no conversation about it, and now we're seeing what it's like when there is conversation about it. Generations after that are going to be TikToks of mental health, so to speak. Do you get what I'm saying? So I don't think there's anything we can do other than just let time just do its thing.
So you're a parent.
I'm a parent.
You're a big advocate of mental health, male mental health specifically, but mental health. 2 questions to end with. Hopefully I won't have any more sub questions because I got so much to ask yet. All right. How do you look after your mental well-being, and like when you're going through hard times while also trying to be a parent, an effective father? And this could be something that people can learn from you, and even if you're still figuring it out, that's also okay. My second question, which hopefully can tie in, what is it that you're trying to do, like while you're navigating through fatherhood and also navigating through your own personal journey as your own person away from fatherhood? What are you doing to ensure that your child's mental well-being is looked after? Like, how does that look like in your world?
Cool. So I'll probably start with the second question first because it's the easiest one. I have a lot of real honest conversations with my daughter. And when let's say for example, I mean, I rarely have to tell her off, but let's just say I have to tell her off about something or whatever, or she's going through something that's emotional. We sit down, we have a conversation about it, and it's in depth. That like I'm asking her, do you understand why you're feeling this? Like I have to have conversations with her about her feelings, and that's something that I'm getting her more aware of. Like, okay, cool, you're going through this, you're sad. Do you know why you're sad? Why are you sad, baby? Like,
love
and there's always a why. Because of this. Do you know why you're sad? And sometimes she says, no, I don't know why I'm sad. Okay, it's okay to be sad and not know why. Just what's happened today. Let's think. So it's almost like backtracking, and those are the things I'm instilling in my daughter now, so she understands. She's going through an emotion, but why am I going through this emotion?
Being able to express.
Yeah, and for me, I'm still working it out. I do the bad thing, but I isolate myself and I sort of think my way through things. Also, sometimes again, going back to what I said, being a dad puts you in this old mentality of, I wouldn't even say, it's a masculine mentality. I wouldn't even say toxic masculinity. It's just masculinity. It's just it's a default setting of saying, you know what, responsibility, this is what I've got to do. It is survival mode. And not a lot of people, and the reason why I think it's a bit disingenuous, because not a lot of people have that, and I understand not a lot of people have that. I'm just of that ilk, not a lot of people are. But again, I'm still navigating through it, and a lot of the time it's just resetting myself and getting back into my own shell and my own BI and saying, you know what, this is what I'm going through. Why am I going through this? I always ask why. Why is the most important question, I think.
It is. And I respect the conversation that you're having with your daughter, because those are kind of the reason why I'm smiling, because those are conversations that I have with my son. Like, we're talking about everything. I'm not saying no to anything. I'm explaining why no. And we're gonna I want to undo what my parents did, maybe even like subconsciously. You
know, it's funny. It's like literally yesterday I was turning off for something, and this is why it's so prevalent in my mind. I was turning off for something. I left it for a little while. She was crying. She was in tears. Obviously, I was like, yeah, boom, go cry. Brought it back to me, and I had to break down to her where my headspace was at. This is why I've told you off. This is what's happened. This is why I feel this way. Do you understand? Yes or no? Yes, you understand. Cool. Do you understand? No, I don't. Let me explain it to you again. And it's just, it's giving that time and space that I don't think our parents were able to give us, because again, they were living in a different time. They came from a different generation. 100%. It was a different culture. Their grandparents were going through something completely different, and they didn't have time to explain. Blood, just do what I'm telling you to do. I don't have time to explain this shit. I've got time to explain it.
Not just that, they weren't told that they should be explaining.
There we go.
We're changing the narrative, and that's the beauty of our generation.
We're in a TikTok of mental health right now.
That's probably going to be the title of this actual podcast. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. It was going to be a quote, but TikTok, that's the one right now.
People are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? What does that mean?
You better watch out and find out. That's what it is. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about, but we've run out of time. Is there any final thoughts?
I'm just grateful that we've been able to have this conversation, and I'm grateful that you've put certain things. So like, there's certain things that I know we were going to speak about that we haven't spoke about, that I hope we speak about again. Yeah. But I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for you giving me the space to sort of speak. This is like therapy for me, you know. And I feel like it came at a good time. I'm going to Peru next week. I'm going to be doing ayahuasca. This is
Google really, that, guys. I ain't explaining it, but apparently it goes from this to this.
Like I said, if I come back and I don't wear crepes no more, you know I've been to a different place.
Mind your business. Mind
your business, man. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Louis, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Quickly, why the hippie?
Do you want a long social story?
Short story, I ain't got time.
All right. I just went through a peace love phase after doing my gang shit.
All right, nice transition in life.
Yeah.
Peace and love. All right, guys, quickly, your handles, please. Where they can find you.
Louis The Hippie, LOUIS The Hippie. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm kind of doing the Twitter thing. I'm not really there. I think we done the Twitter thing and then we died, and all of a sudden it's back alive again. I don't know how, but
Elon Musk. I don't know.
Louis The Hippie. That's what I said.
That's cool. Any projects you're working on?
Yeah, working on an EP at the minute, which is I'm hoping to be out for the new year. I'm putting out hella more content. A lot of video projects going on. So yeah, it's just busy. It's very busy at the minute. A lot of stuff's gonna be happening in the new year.
Sounds amazing. Busy. Yeah. This kind of busy is good busy.
Yeah, it's very.
So embrace
busy.
it and go through the journey, man.
I will do.
Guys, you have been watching, listening, everything to Growing Up Britishh. Mama Hebz.
Wow.
You can catch me on I am Hebz on Instagram, Growing Up Britishh.h also on the gram, and Mama Hebz on YouTube. Subscribe, tell a friend, you know the jazz. Peace and love and chicken grease.
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.